Hey friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. I'm so excited to share and start working on December Daily 2025 Album 1, so stick around. Oh, it's so exciting to be here for December daily season, y'all. I cannot wait. So here is my little table of contents I made. I just saw these little vellum pocket cards with the library ledger style insert and decided that would be perfect. I did also already write my reason why, and I made that kind of intro page already using the 2025 die cut. The journaling just says that life is fleeting, but I still want to capture moments to preserve. There truly is no gift like the present. May I always cherish it. And then I'm going to start working on the first story, story number 1. These aren't stories that I choose to document based on dates. Typically, they're kind of just in some sort of order that makes sense for me. But I do number all of them. I go up to day 31 in case you're new here. We travel at Christmas time to go see my husband's family. So my in-laws and my husband is the oldest of 4 boys, so all of the brother-in-laws and their children. So I go up to 31 days. At some point that might change, but for now that's the way it's going, and it works just fine for me. I have 2 6x8 albums. I purchased the gold star albums from last year's release. I loved the Fa La La, but the shade of red did not, I knew it wasn't going to look good next to my albums from last year. So I went with the older album release. All right, so I'm going to speed up my camera and continue doing this voiceover because this will be a very long video because it is days 1 and 2. So the first thing I knew I wanted to do, I always like to start it out with a story of our family at the current moment in time. So this is actually my 5th year participating in this project, my 4th year participating with Ali Edwards products specifically, and they're the predominant products that I'll be using. So I decided I wanted to attach this. I got the 3x8 specialty card pack. That's what this paper is from. And then I just trimmed down a piece of white basil paper from my stash. The white was very white in those red labels, so I wanted a shade of white that was a little bit brighter. That's as bright as I had, so that's what I went with. So on the back, I'm going to make sure that it is adhered down so that the white piece of paper and the label paper equals 7 inches across by 8¼ inches long. That's the outside the page protector measurements for papers. So once I get that together, I am going to work on just showing you what I'm doing with the first card, and then I think I do the rest off camera because embroidery on paper and embroidery in general just takes a really long time. So I think I'm going to do the first one to show you guys how I did it, and then do the rest of it off camera and come back and kind of show you an update. But the idea is I wanted to tuck the 3 photos of us from this year into these pockets I'm going to make. I took my dies that I purchased, I'm showing you them, and I'm going to use those to cut out vellum labels. So those are going to be the pockets, and the vellum is just from my stash. And then I'm going to do some hand stitching around the labels with some red embroidery floss, and that's going to create the little pocket that the photo will sit inside of. I just had to pick out some red thread that I thought matched well, and then I'm going to use my little, at the top of the screen you can see the pink tool there. That is I don't know what it's called, a threader maybe? I don't know, but it just helps you get the thread through the needle, the eye of the needle, without having to lick the ends and fight and wrestle with it. And I'm just going to make sure that it stays in place by taping it down with some washi tape. And then there's something about stitching on paper that I just find so therapeutic. I absolutely love it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm probably going to do it in as many pages as I can. In fact, I'm still struggling and trying to decide whether or not I should have done more with story number 2. So you'll see in just a minute what I'm talking about. But once I get that stitched all the way around, then I'm going to make sure, the picture fits in there. And then on the back, I already did one just as a test. I used some green, like it's a very subtle mixed media print, almost watercolor effect paper from a Vicky Bouton collection. Just, I wanted something that I could write on top of. So it's just like a very faded green with like some snowflake patterns, and it's, I think there might even be like some evergreen print and like, yeah, it's really subtle. It's not anything spectacular or crazy. I didn't want plain white. So I added just some paper from my stash. The next thing I'm going to do, I want to stamp This Is Us. I had done that previously just to test it out on a scrap piece of paper. So I love these alphas. These are kind of a distressed alpha. This font you'll see a lot in the collection. Well, not a lot, but throughout the collection, this is one of the fonts that they included this year. So I did purchase these as an add-on with my December daily box. I thought I had purchased the numbers, but I guess I didn't. It's fine. Maybe I decided I have enough numbers. And so that's okay. I do have enough numbers. I did not need them, that's for sure. So anyways, I'm going to stamp This Is Us. I am using VersaFine Onyx Black pigment ink, and it's very juicy, and I know that you can use like watercolor over it, so it's very good for little teeny tiny details and things like that. I always get a crisp, clear image. So that's what I use to stamp out This Is Us. And then I went to the little stamps that I purchased with some of the phrases. It's got a bunch of word phrases on it for this year's release, and I saw that it had this year on there because the stamping was just a little bit off. I ended up stamping a little bit too far down. I should have eyeballed it better, but that's what you get when you eyeball something. It always doesn't come out perfect, and that's fine. So I like living on the edge, okay? So I decided I needed to put something there. That's why I added the this year. So it makes sense. It's like This Is Us this year. And then I thought it looked too plain. So if you know me, then you know I don't love white space. White space scares me a little bit. I like to fill in white space. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with like balancing white space with busyness and patterns and textures, but I really like to have color and decor and all the things. I'm a maximalist for sure. In my planners, in my journals, in my art, mixed media, and in paper crafts. So I decided to use the star stamp that was the other stamp I purchased this year, and my embossing ink and powder and heat tool, and just emboss a whole bunch of stars, like basically create my own little pattern around the title that I had just stamped down. So the ink I use is the same that Allie Edwards uses. It's just the Versa Magic embossing ink, and then the powder is by Ranger. It's just a gold powder I've had for years. And then I have a heat tool. Oh, first I'm using my static pouch to make sure. It just helps a lot with like the fallout, if you will, from all of the embossing powder. It will not, you'll get a much clearer image when you use the static pouch first. I think I picked it up at Michael's. And I just keep it in my Alex drawer with all the other items that I use. I also will use a dry paintbrush to brush off the little tiny specks of powder where they should not be. And this wasn't perfect. I definitely, because you're stamping with clear ink, it's a little bit less, like you can't really tell if you put enough ink or not. So sometimes the impression is a bit weak, and there's a bit of a distressed look to the powder once it's embossed, but that's okay. It was fine, and it worked given the distressed alphas as well, so there was no big deal there. I'm not a perfectionist either when it comes to crafting. This is a handmade, project, so I don't expect it to be perfect, and I welcome the imperfections, and it's just fine with me. So I just get extra for December daily. I do my Project Life spreads every week, and those I do embellish, but not nearly as, I don't put as much effort into making them this extra and crafty. This is just my way of having a lot more fun and playing with, all of my items. So you can see under the S there, there's a whole spot where it didn't stamp very well and it like left a bunch of powder. I must not have went over it really well with my static pouch. So I'm going to use that dry brush that I have to brush it all off the paper. So I'm gonna edit that part out because I keep sticking my head in the frame. So going back to the what's going inside the pockets. Oh, this is so satisfying, isn't it? Watching it go from like the powder to the embossed. So satisfying. It's my favorite. I did stamp Q and A on the back of each of those photos on top of that green paper I talked about with the Q and A, not Q and A, sorry, with an alpha stamp that was released with, I think around the time of Week in the Life. I just needed an alpha that fit on the back. And then I lettered with my hard tip Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, what's the best thing God did? And that's my question for us this year. And then we all answered it individually. I wrote it by hand on the back. I'll switch between handwritten journaling and typed up journaling as I complete my album. And then I did end up taking out, I needed like a tag, right, to pull the photos out of the pockets. So I ended up using my Big Shot and the dies again and cutting out the smallest size of the labels and cutting those in half, tucking them between the photo and the green paper on the back, and then using my tiny attacher to adhere them so that they create a little pull tab. And then I'm using these gold puffy stickers from either last year or the year before to put our ages on the fronts of the pockets. Finishing each of the photos and adding the tabs were things I did off camera, so just want to give you a heads up. No, you did not miss the footage. I didn't film it. Then I knew I wanted to have this vellum in between the intro page and my reason why and our first story. Really, it's just a placeholder and kind of a place to rest your eyes, and also acts as sort of a buffer between the intro because it's a very different shape and kind of texture, I guess, from the first story. So I like layering things and having see-through and peekaboo elements throughout my album. So this was an opportunity to do that. Then I took this not vellum, a canvas circle from, I think it was last year or the year before, that says Feliz Navidad, and I don't think I would use that. So I ended up using it just as like a layering piece. I'm going to cover that right up with this chipboard number that came in this year's main kit to indicate that this is story number 1. And then all I'm doing is adding a little finishing touch with this trim I purchased, I believe, off Etsy last year because there were a lot of scallops in last year's collection. I do keep using this Aleene's clear gel tacky glue. I really like it. It's quick drying and for what it is, and it's clear and it dries clear and it seems to hold really well. And so I think you can get it just about anywhere, honestly. I use that to adhere down my trim because I find that the red line tape doesn't always stay. And I do not use a sewing machine, so this is what I'm going to be using. I do decide to add another canvas circle on the back side of this vellum just because I don't like the fact that you can see through and just see the back. It looks unfinished, and so of course, I need to cover that up. So I picked one that says "Wonderful Time of the Year." That's going to take care of story number 1. I love the way it turned out. I think it looks really cohesive and I put a lot of thought into the construction of it and I think it just looks so nice. So you can see now in real time, I'm going to show you each of the photos, how they pull out nice and easy, and then you can see on the back, I answered my question. Healed God, the best thing God did for me this year was healed me of lots of trauma through prayer and EMDR. So yay, therapy. Okay, so that is going to wrap up story number 1. Now I'm going to work on story number 2, and this one is kind of extra because that's just the mood I'm in at the moment. So this one is our first snowstorm and snow day. So we did get snow while we were in Florida a few weeks ago, but I don't think it was a lot and we weren't here to see it. So I'm not counting this. This is counting as our first snow. Just for a little context. So I have this big photo I printed out. I use the Epson Premium presentation, I think it's called, paper, just in case you're wondering. And then I took a photo of my backyard about halfway through the day while it was still light out. We did get a lot more snow than that, but this was just gorgeous because it's this light blue color and it's stunning. So that's my back porch. And then I have this vellum. I have a bunch of these. These were, I think, an add-on for Week in the Life, and I didn't purchase them for that, but I did get them on sale, and I thought, oh, I could use these in other projects, and this turned out to be one of them. And also going with it is another die cut that is my favorite. I was at my friend Linda's house. Linda loves creating, and I was going through her stash, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love the scallops on this paper. And she's like, oh, do you want it? I don't think I'll ever use it. And it's actually, I think it's from, I can't think of the name right now. Oh my gosh. But it's no longer in business. So she was like, you can have it. And I laid it on top. I was like, I wonder if it'll fit on top of this vellum paper that I have. And sure enough, it's not a perfect lineup, which is why right now I wish I hadn't done this, but I adhered all these circular photos into the circles spots on this vellum paper. And then when you put the die cut over top, it doesn't actually fit. So it's off center. Everything that's going to be shown, you'll see in a minute. It doesn't make sense right now. It's abstract because I haven't even put the die cut up there yet, but you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second. So before I get too ahead of myself, the photos are all different photos from the day. I was supposed to work, obviously didn't, nor didn't go to school. So we were super excited to have our first snow day. So this is going to include photos and journaling all about our first snow day together. So I knew I had a bunch of photos that I wanted to include, mostly the cats in the craft room looking out the window because this is Toothless's first winter with us and his first snowstorm. So it was hilarious to watch him watch the snow. I wasn't sure where I was going to put my journaling, but I knew I wanted something to peek out of this large photo. I actually decided as I was doing this that that was going to be a feature, the little peekaboo journaling that I'm going to do and the photo. So I found this card in that 3x8 add-on pack that says hello December, and I was like, well, that's the perfect sentiment, and this green matches the green of the vellum perfectly. And it just, yeah, it's like the perfect sentiment. So I trimmed around the leaf and I thought I would use the top portion of that as kind of the pullout, but it's very fragile, the leaves, once I fussy cut them out. So I do need to reinforce that, and I'll do that in a second. Right now, I have this other photo. It is included on the, I think in the circular photo, top left photo, but it's not very big. So you can't see, the whole, I just think that's such a like beautiful view. The wreaths are on the window and you can see the snow outside. So I put that on the front, and then I forgot I needed to print out these photos. So I added these in. It's just Nora asleep in my bed and a picture of the screenshot of our district being closed because of the snowstorm. So I thought it was fun to include that. And then the other ways I'm filling in these circles is I'm going to do just a few little decorative elements with this gold striped card I had in my stash that was given to me years ago from my friend Jenny Garcia, who also does December Daily, and we exchanged a whole box of goodies with each other. And so I still have a ton of stuff from her because she sent me a zillion things. So I punched out a bunch of little circles to put on top and then layered them underneath with just plain white, and then added some chipboard stickers. I love the white glitter snowburst stickers or starburst, whatever you want to call them. So I added those, and then one circle that says believe in magic. And then on the other two, I do this off camera. I ended up stitching my own little like sort of a snowflake pattern. One of them looks a little bit special. It doesn't really look like a snowflake, but it's fine. I just wanted to add, like I said, I'm obsessed with paper stitching right now. So I also started to not master, but because they definitely look wonky. They're a little bit spanichal, as Nora would say, my daughter Nora. These French knots that are not, they don't look like French knots. They look like a hot mess, but I am so proud of myself because I tried it for hours last year. hours and I could not get it. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't realize I wasn't wrapping the embroidery floss in the correct direction. So, yeah, no wonder why it wasn't working right. So I finally figured that out, and now I am trying to master the French knot. So come hell or high water, I'm going to figure it out. So I did. I did add a few here and there. Originally, I planned to use this, you can see it, the transparency from a couple years ago with, it looks like snow, the asterisks, the print there. I was going to use that to reinforce the back of the holly berry, or the holly leaves that I trimmed out for the pull tab. And, but then I decided, ooh, I think that might look really cute as a layer between the scalloped die cut from Linda's house and this green vellum paper. So that is what I end up doing, and that is what I'm struggling with majorly. So you guys have to let me know in the comments if you think I should end up leaving it as is or not, and I'll show you in a minute, like when I get there, what I'm talking about. For now, back at the present, I'm just looking for just finishing touches to add to my little circles. So I was like, ooh, I'm going to add chipboard word phrases to each of the photos. And then I was like, no, Jen, calm down. You need to keep it simple. So by the way, these rub-ons are they're like 2 years old and they kept falling off. And so I did edit out a bunch of it where I'm like, you know, you can see right now it's a full sheet of letters, but I went through so many trying to get them to stick to the paper just to spell out snow day, which I end up doing, but I actually had to use some of that clear gel tacky glue that I had used prior to make sure it stuck because they kept falling off and crumbling. I don't know. They are a couple years old, but I just was shocked because I didn't think that should be the case after a couple years, but I guess, I don't know. So those letters and the number 2 are from Paper Person Shop like 2 years ago. I did use the number 2 to rub on to the top middle circle for story 2. All right. So you can see I'm cleaning up all of the pieces of the rub-ons that were a fail. And then on the top of the snow day where I wrote snow day, where I put the word snow day, I'm going to add a little green asterisk just to bring in that green. That pretty much is going to sum up the decorative part. Like I said, I'm going to do all of the embroidery and the stitching off camera. There's no way I was going to do that on camera. To do that, all I did was look up a simple snow pattern and try to emulate that by poking holes with my piercing tool. I always use a piece of foam to put underneath whatever I'm piercing through so that I don't like put holes in my desk. And then I just tried my best to make little snowflake looking shapes. It was very, they look a little special, but that's okay. So I'm going to end up selecting just a piece of scrap transparency paper I have. It's from American Crafts with the gold stars. Everybody has it. It used to be readily available at Joann, but RIP to Joann, we no longer have one. So that's what I'm using to put on the top just to give a backing and make it more sturdy so that when I do pull on this photo up through the slot that I'm going to make inside of the big picture, the 7x8 1/4 size photo of my backyard, it won't rip. Right now, like I said, it's very, very flimsy. So I didn't choose this photo to be a particular size. I was kind of just eyeballing it based on the size of these 3x8 cards, which really are not 3x8. They're not 3x8. They're wider for sure. I don't know the exact measurements off the top of my head, but I'm going to just use redline tape, which you are going to see, but there wasn't really any way around that unless I guess I could have hand stitched, but then you would still see the back of the stitching. So it is what it is. I guess I didn't think that through too well. The fact that you see this, big, the back of this poinsettia, I might have to cover that up with something. I don't know. But then it kind of gets rid of the fact that it's a transparency. I don't know what to do about that. I might just end up leaving it. I think it'll be okay. It's not a huge deal. I don't know. You let me know what you think. I'm going back and forth now. All right. So I'm going to kind of measure out where the peekaboo slit needs to be in the page. And I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to slice right down where I want to be able to pull this through. What else happens? I'm trying to think. Oh, off camera, I am going to add the journaling. I'm going to type it up. Actually used InShot, which is the program I use to edit all my videos. And I don't know why I cannot get down with Canva, but me and Canva are not friends. I try, man, do I try. Every year I try to reteach myself how to do. It's probably so easy and so simple, but I am not a technology girly. For whatever reason, I was able to figure out how to edit my photo and put journaling on top of it in InShot. So that's just what I'm doing. I don't ask me for a tutorial. Like I said, I am not a technology girly. I couldn't teach you if I tried. So just know that's the program I used. I'm sure it's way easier to do this in Canva, and it's free in Canva. InShot, I pay for the premium subscription, subscription. Just a heads up. So what I did was I took a photo, the photo actually right in the middle of the page with the 3 candy canes in the front yard. I took that, I blurred it out, and then I typed on top of that image. And then I also added a label from the digital, I think it came with Prep Day or Product Play, I can't remember, that says adore this. And then I typed the date on it. So I'll redo the journaling while you're watching me put all of this together. I'm just basically sandwiching these pages. I wrote first snow day, Tuesday around 6:30 a.m. I woke up to several notifications that school was closed due to a snow day. Nora was already asleep next to me. She had come in about a half hour prior. Matt informed me later. Even Toothless seemed to know. He was snoring on top of her. I knew I should spend the day organizing and changing out our clothes, but the silent snow, the warmth coming up from the vents, and the temptation to work on my December daily album beckoned me to my craft room. I spent most of the day playing with products, experimenting with foils, and working on my attempts at the dreaded French knot embroidery stitch. Nora kept me company on the couch, and both cats joined us, as if deciding this was the superior place to view the falling snow. This wasn't Smokey's first snowstorm. He calmly kept his eye on the plows going up and down the street. For Toothless, this was one of the first snowstorms, and definitely the most snow he'd ever seen. He didn't know quite what to make of it, and it was endearing to watching the big flakes as they coated our yard. What a perfect way to start the season. So that's my journaling. It's definitely not perfect. Like if you look at it, it drives me nuts, but when you start a new line, it capitalizes the letter even if it's not the beginning of a sentence. So there's lots of capitals that don't need to be where they are, but that's okay. Doesn't need to be perfect. The journaling's there, the sentiment's there, the photos are there. It is what it is. Everything else is just me being extra as usual. Now you can see how it's off-centered. So I'm using some washi tape to make sure it's lined up, and then see how the right column, all the circles are all the way over to the right. Yeah. So there was no way that I could think of to fix that. So all I did was just move them over. So when you open it, you definitely can tell that they're off centered on the green paper, but when you're looking at it through the front of the white die cut, they line up, and that's more important to me. So I just left it as is. It's not the perfect solution. I definitely could have used another paper and nobody would have seen these off-centered circles, but I like the green. I'm just leaving it as it is. I did edit out where I was repositioning all the photos because that was took a while, and then I'm showing you in real time the hand-stitched quote-unquote snowflakes that I made. And then you also saw probably that I punched holes in things. I'm going to now add in this piece of transparency to go behind the white die cut scalloped piece. This is where I need your help, and I have left it blank. It literally is just an extra piece that doesn't really need to be there, but I don't know, I love the way it looks when you're looking down at it and you see that subtle snowflake print on top of all of these photos. I just think it's like so perfect for the story. I just wasn't sure if I should add a few little stars or embellishments or things to either the front or back side of it, but I really think I'm just going to leave it as is. All right, the last thing I think I do is on the left side of the photo, it just looked a little weird to me and a little bit empty, having all of that empty space on the left side of the tree in the backyard where the journaling pulls up from. So I ended up punching another one of those circles out, cutting it down, and I found in my stash this chipboard piece that's light blue with a blue arrow, which kind of indicates, right, like pull up here to read the journaling or see the photo. And then I added 3 little chipboard glitter snowflakes or starbursts or whatever you want to call them, because I always add embellishments in uneven numbers. And then I'm going to add this off-white. It's almost blue though, but it looks a little light blue on top of the photo, but it's white, this number 2, because I want people to know that this is part of the same story that's spread out over a couple of pages. I know I didn't film the intro page that I created or the table of contents. I do have separate posts about those over on my Instagram if you're curious. I did add in the caption of those posts how I did those things and created them in case you're curious and if you're not following me over there. So here I am all finished with stories 1 and 2. I'm pretty happy with it overall. I think I did a good job, trying not to do too much, but also make use of these elements that I really wanted to use. So let me know if you have questions. I always speed everything up pretty quickly so I know that things can get overlooked or I might forget to mention details, so feel free to comment below. But thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you like it and are subscribed and hit the bell so you don't miss my content, and I will see you back here for the next one. Take care, friends, and remember that you are enough. Bye!